Hi there, so today we're looking at lesson 5.3b, then equations with unknowns on both sides. So this lesson follows on from lesson 5.3, which was equations with brackets. So today we're going to learn how to use a balancing method to solve equations, so we're going to move to a slightly different method to the one we've been using previously, and we're going to be able to solve equations with unknowns on both sides, including those with brackets. So before we start, again, we need to check our prior knowledge. So we should have a good understanding of inverse operations, so knowing that plus and minus are inverse and that times and divide are inverse, so inverse meaning the opposites. We should also have a good understanding of BIDMAS and the order in which BIDMAS is applied to a maths question. We should have an understanding of the basic algebraic notation, so in particular knowing that a number followed by a letter, so 5x for example, means that 5 is multiplied by x, and that knowing if we have a fraction that means one value is divided by the other, so in this case x divided by 2. We need a good understanding of addition, subtraction, multiplication and division with negative numbers. So we are going to be using negative numbers in today's lesson. So making sure that you know those rules and how they apply differently to adding and subtracting and multiplying and dividing. And you should be able to multiply out brackets. So if we've got 3 brackets x plus 2, that is the same as 3x plus 6. So if you're not familiar with the 3 lines here, this means identity. It means not only is this equal to this, meaning equal meaning of the same value, it means there are different ways of writing the same thing. So 3 brackets x plus 2 and 3x plus 6 are identical expressions. Please make sure you're happy with those before you move on. If not, you may need to go back and do one of the previous lessons first. Okay, so today we're going to have a look at a different method of solving equations then. So we've got our two-step equation here that we've seen in our previous lessons. But this time, instead of drawing a function machine, we're going to use a balancing method. Now the balancing method is all about whatever I do to one side, I need to do to the other. So if I were to simply take 1 from one side, you would see that my scales become unbalanced. Okay, they're no longer, each side doesn't weigh the same. So, as I said, whatever we do to one side, we need to do to the other to keep it in balance. So let's have a look at how we can use that then. So by removing the same weights from both sides, we would keep it in balance. So on this side, we've got 2x plus 1, and on this side, we've got 7. Now, remembering our inverse operations mean we're going to do the opposite. So if I want to get rid of 1 from this side, I've got plus 1. If I take 1 from this side, that would get rid of it, so that's doing its opposite. I need to also take 1 from this side. And in that way, our equation stays balanced. Okay, so if I've taken 1 from each side, I am now left with 2x on one side and 6 on the other. I've written this notation in here. This is the way I normally display it. I just put in brackets what I've done to both sides. Some people write it small underneath each side. It is entirely up to you how you want to show what you've done, but it is important that you show what you've done, because if you were to make a mistake, then it gives you a chance to go back and see where that mistake might be. Okay, so we've subtracted 1 from both sides, and we now have 2x is equal to 6. Our final step then, now we want to solve, remember, we want to find how much a single x is. I can't just take an x from this side because I don't have any to take from this side. So for our final step, we're going to use our inverse operation. So we know that here 2x means that x has been multiplied by 2. So the inverse of that is if I divide by 2. So I'm going to divide both sides by 2. 2x divided by 2. Now 2 divided by 2 is 1, so we would end up with 1x. Usually we don't write a 1 in front of a letter because we know there's only one of it, so we're going to use the letter x, and we divide the other side by 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. X is equal to 3. So we have solved our equation. So remember, solving means find the value of a single letter. If we want to check that that's correct, remember we can substitute our value back in. So 2 times 3 is 6, 6 plus 1 is 7, and that's equal to 7. So when we end up with both the same number on each side, then we know our answer is correct. Okay, let's have a look at a little bit more complex one then. So this time we've got 5x plus 1 on one side, and that's equal to 2x plus 7 on the other. So this is one where we say we have unknowns on both sides. We've got some x's this side and some x's this side, so these are our unknown values. But again, we want to solve to find the value of a single x. Whatever I do to one side, I need to do to the other. So usually I start off with my letters. So if I want to remove some of the letters, I usually remove the smallest amount of letters first, because I can't take 5x from both sides, as there are not enough on this side for me to take. So if I remove 2 x's from both sides, there they go. Again, I've written down here what it is I've done to both sides. That leaves us with 3x plus 1 on this side, and that's equal to 7 on this side. So we're still nice and balanced. We did the same to both sides. Okay, what we want to end up with is the letters on one side of our equation and the numbers on the other. So this side currently has letters and numbers, this one just has numbers. So let's try and reduce this one down to just letters. So to have just letters on this side, I need to take 1 away. So our lovely 1 here, and we need to do that from both sides. So we take 1 from each side. There they go. And we are left with 3x equals 6. So we've separated our equation. We have letters one side, numbers the other, but we still do have a number here. I've still got 3x. So my next step then is I need to remove this 3. So remembering this is 3 times x, so x has been multiplied by 3. To get rid of it, we need to do our inverse operation, which means we divide both sides by 3. If I divide both sides by 3, x is equal to 2. So again, we're going to just check that that's correct. So if we put it back in, 5 times 2 is 10, plus 1 is 11. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 7 is 11. Both sides equal 11, so our answer is correct. So just to talk through those steps then, first step, we remove the smallest amount of the letters from each side. Then we want to try to get the letters one side and numbers the other. So we're going to remove any numbers from our letter side. Our next step then is to again try to get any numbers removed from our letter side. So in this case we had to divide until we end up with one letter equal to one number. Okay, so our scale should always have the letters on one side, numbers on the other, until we get down to one letter and one number. And to do that, we use our inverse operations. All right, we're going to work through some examples then. So it's a bit easier sometimes if you see somebody actually writing them out. So I'm going to write these out as we... Okay then, so I've got the same questions here on my piece of paper. So to start with then, so I always start by removing the lowest amount of letters first. So I've got 2x or x. So remember that's 2x is there, x simply means I've got 1. So 1 is smaller than 2, so I'm going to remove this amount of x's first. It's a positive x, so to get rid of it I need to do its inverse, which is subtract it. So I'm going to take x from both sides. 2x take away 1x leaves me with 1x. Still have the plus 2, so I'm only taking away a letter at the moment. X take away x, that means that one's gone, but I'm left with the 9. Okay, my next step then is to try to separate the letters and the numbers. So I've got a mixture of letters and numbers this side and just numbers this side. So this is going to be my number side, it's going to be my letter side. So if I want to get rid of this number from here, I need to do its opposite. It's plus 2. The inverse of plus 2 is subtract 2. So I'm going to take 2 from both sides. If I take 2 from this side, I end up with x. If I take 2 from this side, I get 7. X equals 7. And that's our final step. As soon as we've got one letter and one number, we are finished. So let's just check through and make sure we're happy then. So let's substitute it back in. 2 times 7 is 14, plus 2 is 16. 7 plus 9 is also 16, so our answer is correct. Alright, let's have a look at this one then. So again, my first step, I like to get rid of my smallest amount of letters. So 1x is smaller than 3x, and we're going to take that 1x away. So if I take 1x from both sides, I have 2x plus 1 on this side, take it away from this side, and we're left with 5. Now I want to make sure I've got separated my letters and numbers. So again, this side's just got numbers, so we'll keep this as the number side. So I need to get rid of any numbers from this side first of all. So plus 1. To get rid of plus 1, I need to do its opposite, which is minus 1. So inverse operations each step. Take 1 from both sides, and 2x equals 4. And finally, again, I just want letters this side, so we need to get rid of this 2. This is 2 times x, so the inverse is to divide by 2. So we divide each side by 2. X equals 2. Check your solution. 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7. 2 plus 5 is also 7, so that one's correct. Okay, let's have a look at these ones down here. So we can see we've got a slight difference here. We've got 6x minus 8 equals 4x. So again, I'm going to get rid of my smallest amount of letters first. So the smallest amount of letters I've got is this 4x. So I'm going to subtract 4x from both sides. 6x take 4x is 2x. I've got my minus 8. Now 4x take 4x is 0. So we can end up with 0 in our equation. Now again, I've got numbers this side and letters and numbers this side. So let's have the letters this side and the numbers this side. So we need to get rid of this minus 8. Now the inverse of minus 8 is add 8. So remember, we've always got to do the opposite if we want it to disappear from one side of our equation. So minus 8 plus 8 is 0, so we're left with 2x. 0 plus 8 is 8. Again, we need to get rid of the number here. 2x means 2 times x, so we need to do the opposite. So we're going to divide by 2, that's our inverse. Dividing by 2 gives us x equals 4. Let's check our answer. 6 times 4 is 24. 24 minus 8 is 16. 4 times 4 is also 16. So our answer is correct. So the beauty of this algebra is you can always check your answer. So you'll always know whether you've got these right or not. Finally, our last one then. So again, we'll start with the x's. So 5x or 1x. I'm going to get rid of the 1x first. So again, I'm going to subtract x from both sides. So we get 4x plus 1 equals minus 11. Now I've got to make sure that our negative 11, okay, remember the symbol is stuck to the numbers that follow. We can't just lose it or change it. Let's keep the letters this side then, because we've got numbers on their own over here. So we want this number to go away from this side. So plus 1, to get rid of that, we're going to do minus 1. So we do that to both sides. If I subtract 1 from this side, I have 4x. If I subtract 1 from this side, minus 11 minus another 1 is minus 12. And again, we want our x by itself. So we're times by 4. The opposite, the inverse, is divide by 4. So we're going to divide both sides by 4. So that gives us x. Now, a negative divided by a positive is going to give us a negative answer, and 12 divided by 4 is 3. So our answer this time is negative 3 or minus 3. Let's check. 5 times minus 3 is minus 15. Minus 15 plus 1 is minus 14. Minus 3 minus 11 is also minus 14. So you do need to make sure then you know your negative number rules and that some of your answers may very well be a negative value. pause the video if you need to. Make sure you've copied down those examples clearly and you've understood each step. Okay, so there are 5 questions there then for you to have a go at. So pause the video now, have a go at these in your maths book. Okay, let's have a look at the answers then. So there they are, so you may again need to pause the video and just check through your answers. Although if you've checked your answers as you've worked through, you should know if they are correct before you've seen my solutions. If you have made a mistake anywhere, just go back and check line by line, making sure that you've done those inverse operations, and whatever operation you've done to both sides of the equation. Okay, we're now going to have a look then at using our balancing method for ones where there are brackets as well. So again, I'm going to do these on paper just to make it a bit easier for you to see. Okay, so with these then, our first step is to multiply out the brackets. So remember, when multiplying out the brackets, we multiply the term outside by the first term. So 4 times x is 4x. And we then go back and we multiply the term outside the bracket by the second term. Now our second term is minus 5. 4 times minus 5 is minus 20. And that's equal to our 2x minus 8. So now we're back to similar equations to the ones you've just done. So let's start again by getting rid of the smallest amount of x's. So 2x is the smallest, so I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides. If I do that, I end up with 2x minus 20 equals minus 8 again, making sure I've checked my symbols. Now we want the x's this side, letters this side, numbers on this side, because this is where the numbers are on their own at the moment. So let's get rid of the minus 20. To get rid of minus 20, we do its inverse, which is we add 20 to both sides. If I add 20 to both sides, I get 2x on this side. Minus 8 plus 20 gives me positive 12. So again, be careful, draw a number line if you need to. We want x on its own. It's currently multiplied by 2, so we need to do the inverse, which is divide by 2. And we get x equals 6. And again, we can check our answer. So making sure we use BIDMAS. So I'm going to put the 6 back in here. So 6 minus 5 is 1, and 1 times 4 is 4. 6 times 2 is 12, and 12 minus 8 is also 4. So we know that that's the correct answer. Okay, the second example. This one then has brackets on both sides. So we're going to need to multiply out the brackets from both sides before we start. First term gives us 4f, and we go back and multiply the second term. So remember, it's always multiplying, so that's plus 20 this time. Then on this side, 6 times f is 6f, and 6 times positive 4 is positive 24. We're going to get rid of the smallest amount of the letter. So 4f is smaller than 6f, so I need to take 4f from both sides this time. That leaves me with 20 on this side, and 2f plus 24 on this side. So we can see the numbers are on their own here, so we're going to keep the numbers this side and the letters this side in this case. Okay, so it doesn't matter which side, but you want all the numbers one side and you want the letters on the other side. So we're going to get rid of this plus 24. So to do that, we're going to subtract 24 from both sides. 20 minus 24 is minus 4. And if we take 24 from this side, we're left with 2f. Again, we want a single letter. So we need to get rid of the 2. It's multiplied by 2. So we do the inverse, which is divide by 2. So if I divide both sides by 2, a negative divided by a positive is negative. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 2f divided by 2 is f. Now finally then for these ones, we mostly would like them with the letter then the number. So if you end up with a number then a letter, all you need to do is switch them round at the end. So usually on the answer line they want the letter is equal to a value. So in this case F equals -2. Okay, again, pause the video, make sure you've copied those examples into your book. They will help you when you're working through your own questions. Okay, so finally then, 4 there for you to have a go at. So don't forget, expand the brackets first by multiplying them out, and then follow the method of balancing and inverse operations, and check your solutions. Okay, so let's just have a look through those final answers then. So for the first one, x equals 1, then x equals 2, x equals -1, and x equals 5. So make sure you're happy with those. If not, go back, have another look, work through each step and make sure that you've used those inverses and that you've done the same to each side of the equation. Okay, well thank you for working through today's lesson. When you're ready, click on the link to move to the next lesson.